crazy to think because you're going from character Guy Weber to Logan Mailloux. But he has, again, his shot is really, really good. And he's very, very effective offensively. Like he can easily run a power play. He can eat a whole bunch of minutes. Like Trevor Timmons said in an interview, like he's going to play like 20 to 25 minutes a night in the NHL easy. And like he's a good hockey player. But at the same time, there are defensive deficiencies in there with like he misses some reads, and he's only played 4 OHL games with London Knights. So it's just tough to see. But at the same time, he put up 15 points in 17 games in the 3rd Swedish Pro Division, which is actually a really good point tally. I think he was one of the top point scorers on his team. You can look at the minus rating, but at the same time, his team sucked. So yeah, like as a hockey player, he's a good player. And yet I still thought there were better players ahead of him. I would have picked Stankoven in the slot, but
totally. I would agree. I would totally agree with you on that one. Thankfully, Montreal actually made some really interesting picks later on in the draft, which I think definitely made up for it. One of my favorite picks of this entire draft for Montreal is still Joshua Waugh and Xavier Simoneau. When we were doing our mock draft, I was doing a mock draft for this, I had noticed that Waugh was ranked at the 100th slot by NHL Central Scouting, and I thought, it'd be fun to see him kind of go somewhere and kind of be a surprise pick elsewhere. Thankfully, he went to Montreal. Waugh is a former first overall pick in the QMJHL draft. He's 17 years old. He's still fully developing, and he has a lot of offensive upside. He might be small, but he's a really talented player, and I think could be a great addition to Laval. So too will Xavier Simoneau. I think Simoneau has a lot of upside for a guy who was passed over twice in the NHL entry draft. And basically, he reminds me a lot of a David Desharnais type without the speed or the skating that Desharnais had. And I think in my mind, as well as being the captain of his team, the Drummondville Voltigeurs, so he has a lot of experience and also a lot of tendency to be a leader on the ice. I feel like whether he goes to Laval or whether he goes to Trevor, he could be a definite scoring star in the AHL, and he actually reminds me a lot of Alex Barré-Boulet, who was an undrafted signing with the Tampa Bay Lightning, who Montreal had for some reason passed over when he was an undrafted free agent, which was slightly criticized at the time. I don't know what you think about that, Sebastian, but I definitely think Montreal had some fantastic late round picks in this draft.
I'm going to interrupt 2 seconds. I'm sorry, Sebastian. I just want to ask a question about Xavier Simoneau. For a guy who got passed twice in the draft, why did he get passed by twice? Is it because he's? I'm sorry, Maria. I'm still in your research number here. I got it. I got his stats in front of me. He's 5'7". I mean, the Desharnais comparison is good, but I mean, you're looking at his stats, and I get it. Like especially in Quebec, the juniors is it's all out offense. It's there's. The goalies are always terrible and everything, but this is a point-a-game player. This is 228 points in 204 games in the queue. I mean, shouldn't he have been drafted, not just earlier in the draft, but last year? Why? Sure. Are we literally just looking at the physical aspect here?
Yeah, well, the size matters debate is something that has continually plagued the NHL entry draft, and I think it'll never truly go away. Guys like Alex DeBrincat to Chicago are kind of changing that rhetoric, which is nice. But I think guys like Simoneau will still continue to slip through the cracks. But regardless of that, I still think Montreal is getting a lot out of this guy in spite of his size, and it's definitely something that they can develop. I don't know what you think about Sebastian, but I'll throw the floor to you to talk about it.
Yeah, I would advise anyone that's interested on Simoneau as a player to just Google Xavier Simoneau Jack Hahn. He has an amazing article detailing why he believes Simoneau deserves a draft pick, and he wrote it half a year ago. And he was actually a coach for the Toronto Marlies when Simoneau went to their rookie camp, and he was the guy that was assigned to Simoneau to track him and to give him advice. And the thing that really stood out to him was that when Simoneau gets advice, it's like the Bible to him. He's like, okay. He doubles down on it, and he does exactly that. So he was told, okay, you have to add some shooting to your repertoire, because he's always a playmaker first, but he just didn't shoot the puck enough. And in the next season, he shot the puck more often. He was told to give a little bit more effort and better reads off the puck, and he did exactly that in the next season. So he learns very, very well, and he takes advice very effectively. And I think, especially for a player whose ceiling might not be the highest, he's probably not going to be a top 6 player, but for hopefully a third line contributor, being able to learn and absorb things very effectively and quickly, I think is a really important thing. And
I'll tell you, I'll let you keep going, but I just wanted to add something really quick about it that's really, I think, really interesting, because you mentioned his learning ability and how he picks up information really quick. One of the great things about Montreal's affiliates, which is likely where Simoneau will play, is that they have a lot of really proven star guys in those leagues. The Trois-Rivières Lyon signed Olivier Archambault, who has been one of the ECHL's best players when healthy, and I feel like no matter where they send Simoneau, if he can pick up things really quickly from these really talented guys, I think that'll be a really, really great learning experience for him.
For sure. And like another pick I actually really liked was at 64. They picked Oliver Kapanen. He's Kasperi Kapanen's cousin, but he's not Kasperi Kapanen. Like Kapanen for like super fast, can play on the penalty kill, like throw sticks at other guys, right? Like classic Kapanen. And yeah, Scott, you want to say something about Kapanen or?
No, you can keep going. I think Elias mentioned something about him being some certain player's son, but there were so many different players who were like other players' sons in this draft. I couldn't keep track of most of them.
It's a lot.
Like, even Bobby Orr got drafted, so.
Bobby Orr.
I love that prospect.
I was waiting for.
I love him. Like, he went to Carolina. I love him. But Oliver Kapanen is a player I really enjoy watching him because firstly, he scores goals. He's a goal scorer. He has a great shot. And he kind of just like bangs pucks into, so he deflects a lot of rebounds. He stays himself around the net. Like offensively, just really, really smart. And he's also very good at faceoffs, which is something we need. So I like that pick a lot. Like, he's not the best skater. His defense is hit or miss. Sometimes he looks like a great like two-way player, and sometimes he couldn't care less about playing on defense. So hopefully the work ethic for defensive play comes with time. But I thought it was a really nice upside pick because I think there's a ceiling there of maybe like a fringe second line center with good faceoff ability and a goal scorer, which is, end of the second round, pretty good.
Absolutely, totally. And I think Montreal's really shown a really great penchant to be able to give their prospects chances at the minor league level, because they, like, in Laval's roster last season, they were juggling players left and right. They gave everybody an opportunity. Arsen Kissimov, who was a 6th-round pick of the Canes in 2019, got into 15 games with the Rocket. That shows something about how willing Montreal is to show their prospect and give them a chance to prove themselves, regardless of their potential ceiling. They just want to put guys on the ice, put them with some veterans, and say, hey, we'll give you a shot, we'll see how you play, and we'll evaluate you from there. I think that's just a really great strategy.
I know that draft strategy is sometimes a thing. And I say sometimes because, depending on the situation you're in, you want to say, hey, we got issues at, up front. I know, Josh, you had mentioned at some point off air how, like, we have so much depth back at the blue line. Shouldn't the focus have been that we get as many forwards as possible? Do you guys think, and this is for everyone, not just Sebastian and Scott, do you guys think that Marc Bergevin, or for that matter, Trevor Timmins, because he pretty much runs the show at the draft, was there a plan to actually get specific players, or was it just, let's just get the best player on the board, especially considering the situation involving how blind the draft actually was this year?
I definitely think there's a plan. They drafted a whole bunch of QMJHL players. So I definitely think getting Quebec-born players was part of the plan this year, and also shoring up the right side of defense in the prospect pool. They drafted 3 guys that play on the right in Mailloux. I think Kostenko and Sobolev are both right shots. And so they got 3 right-handed defenseman prospects, and especially after losing Cale Fleury, you kind of had to shore that up.
And Noah Juleson,
totally. And Juleson, yeah.
But I think the funny thing about, like, putting aside Timmins' 20 seconds of silence when he was asked about why he chose to draft Mailloux, even though he had specifically asked not to be drafted, that was putting that aside. The Canadiens have put a lot of faith into Timmins and his ability, and to be frank, he's actually made a lot of really great late round selections that have a chance to come out. Like, when I was looking at Matthew Coronado, who was a 15th overall pick in the first round of this draft, I didn't really know a whole lot about him until I realized that he was playing with Sean Farrell, who was a former Habs 5th round pick. Farrell put up 101 points this year in the USHL, which is unheard of in the United States Hockey League.
It's so fun to watch too.
Oh, totally. 5'9" center, great playmaker, and he's going to Harvard to play with Coronado. So having a 1st round pick to play alongside him, I think Montreal's done a really good job of just getting guys who most people might pass over, and just giving them opportunities to succeed, and most importantly, making the fans want to see them succeed and making the fans want to see their ultimate potential.
Yeah. And like I wanted to mention one more player that the Habs drafted, and that was in the 7th round. They picked a really massive goalie called Joe Verbedich. He's a guy I watched a couple times, which was painful because he played for the North Bay Battalion, which is like the worst OHL team. Ouch. Really painful. But I remember watching him last year when I was looking at Brandon Coe. Who
at least they got Brandon Coe.
He's fun. Yeah. And I remember watching the goalie, and he's like he did not put up good numbers, but like no goalie was going to put up good numbers on a team with 0 defensemen. Like North Bay cannot defend. So he's very old for the draft class, but he's 6'6". He's like an absolute like unit of a player. And for that size, his like side to side movement is like really explosive. It's pretty impressive to watch because like he's a massive guy. You think he'd like lumber around the crease a bit, but like it's really quick side to side movements, and like his reads are off sometimes. But in the 7th round, it's a swing I find really interesting because he could have progressed a lot in the last year.
I definitely think that 190-pound frame comes in handy.
Yeah,
being that big and having that frame.
We're gonna take a minute, guys, and to end this segment, I want to put Josh and Elias on the spot a little bit because it's pretty obvious that Sebastian and Scott know everything about everyone when it comes to prospects. I'm pretty sure Sebastian has a stat in front of him as to how many times did Dmitry Kotsenko wear purple underpants. So like these guys are absolutely knowledgeable. But I want to know. I want to know what you guys think from your end, because I mean, like, you know, a casual fan will look at this being like, I have no idea who these people are. Like, you know, I'm sitting on my couch. I am like, the Montreal Canadiens have drafted Riley Kidney. I'm like, okay, Kidney. Who's that? Except for an organ, you know? So I'm like, how do you guys react when you see these kinds of things? Do you like just look at this and being like, we'll see? Or does it actually maybe like pique your interest being like, you know what? I need to find out a little more. Like, what do you guys think?
If I can go first, I used to follow the draft a lot more carefully when I was younger, but then I realized I got more into like becoming like an insider, like the trades, the rumors, the signings, all that stuff. So I focused more of my attention on that. So I mean, like I know a couple of prospects like offhand, but like to be honest, like you said, like you told me who's Riley Kidney, I would not be able to tell you like anything about him at all.
But that's my question. I mean, like, you know, you're looking at this and you're going like Riley Kidney, like, which I'm sure, you know, he's a good player because, you know, he did get picked 63rd overall after all. Yeah. But I mean, like, how do we know to trust the organization with this? You know, it's like
the most difficult draft ever because again, like Canada, there was no junior league in Canada that played. Majority of players went to the US or they were in Europe. So how did scouts scouts had to spend the year in Europe or did they spend the year in the States just like watching
video scouting?
Sorry?
A lot of video scouting. Like a lot of teams that like hated video scouting had to do it this season, which was fun because a lot of the more traditional scouting teams were really pissed off. But it was very different because of that.
By the way, Sebastian, I have a question to throw your way. When will we see Matthias Norlinder in Montreal?
Well, he got his ELC, so he's going to be in training camp. And then it's up to him to win a spot. I'd love to see him win a spot because it would burn down like the current like D setup that everyone has written up with like Edmondson, Sherratt, Petrie, Savard, Romanov, Kulak. Like you throw in Norlinder and it's like, who goes where, right? And then Weidman's the 8th defenseman, and it would be a really nice wrench just thrown into it because it would make training camp a lot more fun to just like actually have something to talk about with a defenseman. If he makes the lineup, he's running a power play. Like if he makes it, he's going to be running like I want to say the first unit of the power play, but it's probably going to be the second. Like again, he's a really great skater. Really just dynamic offensively. And like when Montreal drafted him, his defense was really hit or miss, but he's really shored that up recently. And like he played some games with big minutes in the SHL with Frölunda. Like that's not nothing, especially at his fairly young age. I really want to see him with the Habs this season, but I think it's a lot more likely that he goes back to the SHL, finishes his last year on that contract, and then comes over full time to North America the year after. And